Good evening and welcome to the November 28th, 2023 Board of Supervisors work session. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Township meetings are recorded for the purpose of preparing the minutes, and the recording is destroyed after the minutes are approved. The meeting will be posted online on the Township YouTube channel. The link can be found on the Board of Supervisors page on the Township website. It is requested that all persons wishing to speak before the board shall state their name, address, and the subject matter upon which they wish to speak for the record. In the interest of facilitating the business of the board, all persons addressing the board shall be limited to 3 minutes unless such time is extended by the chair for good cause. Individuals are requested to remain in their seats and to respect when other persons are speaking. The Board of Supervisors will provide a reasonable opportunity for citizens to comment on any non-agenda item after all agenda items have been addressed, but prior to the adjournment of the public meeting. And I want to announce that we had a executive session immediately prior to this meeting on litigation and litigation. Yep. All right. So the first order of business is the IRIC recapture agreement.
So I was, as was brought up, I believe it was last month's work session. The IRICs, the yachts have connected to the IRICs force main. Well, let me back this up. When the IRICs put in their force main, it was built so that it could accommodate 2 additional homes on that force main. And in that regard, the township and the IRICs entered into what's called a reimbursement agreement so that the IRICs could recover some of the money in installing this force main when these 2 other houses hooked up to it. One of these 2 houses is the house owned by Mr. Ott. They have hooked up to it, and in that regard, they then submitted the reimbursement payment to the township. Under the agreement, the township was obligated to notify the IRICs within 30 days of receipt of this payment. Through an oversight, the township did not meet this deadline. The township has since forwarded notification to the IRICs of this payment. And on your bills list tonight is the amount owed to the IRICs under this reimbursement agreement. That amount is the amount paid by the OTS minus 5% administrative fee, which under state law the township is allowed to claim in these instances. Due to the township's failure to notify them within the required 30 days, the IRICs have requested that this administrative fee be eliminated from the contract. I would not recommend granting that request. As far as eliminating it from the contract, instead I would alter that request into a return of all or part of the this 5% payment, which is approximately $550. $596.86. So basically a $600 payment. And that's what's before you tonight, is to consider this request of the return of all of this or part of this payment to the IRICs on the basis that the township failed to send off the notice that we had received payment in a timely manner.
So it's my understanding we are legally able to ask for the 5%, and that is for our administrative time and expenses.
Correct. This reimbursement process is set forth in the Pennsylvania Municipalities Authorities Act, and that act specifically lays out how this process is supposed to take place. And as part of that process, specifically states that the municipality has the right to a 5% administrative fee.
And I'm assuming that we did administratively expend some time and energy on this.
Yes.
Okay. All right, what does the board think?
Just a follow-up question. From the standpoint of what kind of a delay was there in getting this to the IRIX?
My understanding, and I'm not sure about this, about 30 days, 30 to 45 days past when we were supposed to get it to them.
Sorry, if you want to make a comment for the record, can you come to the microphone? Thank you.
So it was almost 60 days. Elmer's check was cashed on August 17th. Jason wrote the letter on October 28th, which was the day after I was here the last time. So it was almost 60 days.
So what is your hardship?
My hardship is that we spent $50,000 on the sewer, 30 of which was put in a main, which Lower Frederick Township will gain equity in people paying for that sewer. So that was $30,000. We also spent a few $1,000s with Peter to write up a recapture agreement, which was supposed to protect Jeff and I from anything happening. And with the township, we have an agreement. And that agreement was not filled to its capacity. We did everything by the letter, and the township did not. And therefore, I believe that we should receive some sort of something from the township. And I don't believe that half is enough. It cost us a lot of money for that recapture agreement, to the point where when we asked Peter about it, he said, let's see what you can make, because it might not be worth your while. That's how much that recapture agreement was. So I think the township should own up to the fact that they dropped the ball, apologize, and we should be able to gain that 5%.
We're definitely willing to, we apologize definitely for the fact that you didn't get the letter in the type of time frame that it was supposed to be delivered. I'm not sure that apology should come with a $600 check though. Because yes, I understand that you had all these other expenses, but that had nothing to do with the fact that we inadvertently, an administrative oversight wound up with you getting us roughly a $600 check, maybe 60 days after you should have gotten it. But the check is still worth $600, $500.
We have not received the check yet. And
It's being approved and signed tonight.
okay, which is great. Nowhere in my contract does it say that due to staffing problems, which is something that Peter brought up the last time we were here, nor does it say an oversight on the township. It says, I will be notified within 30 days, and I was not. And therefore, in my eyes, that is a breach of contract. I wouldn't have spent thousands of dollars to have this agreement if the township is not going to stand behind it.
I don't think the township's not standing behind the agreement. There was a, what do you
It
call
states in a legal document, I was supposed to be notified in 30 days. So I don't think that $600 is too much to ask, that you don't take your administration fees, because you were delayed in your administration fees, in your administration, in letting me know. The only reason I found out is because we have a really good relationship with the Otts. If Jeff and I would have moved anywhere else and not known our neighbors, we would have never have known that this was a oversight on the township.
So just to clarify, either Peter or Jason can answer this. So the letter, no, the letter did not go out, but that did not delay the receipt of the check or anything else.
Now, the letter, the way the agreement reads, and this is, as I said, stated, set forth in state law, is the way the process works is when we receive payment, we are supposed to notify the IREX within 30 days, hey, we got payment. Do you want it? And where should we send it? And if they fail to then respond to us, I believe in 60 days, then we're under no obligation to forward it on to them. So in this case, we received payment from the Otts. We didn't send out that letter. The IREX came the end of October, or near the end of October, to say, hey, what's going on here? As was stated, we then turned around and sent out the letter notifying them of the receipt of payment and asking them to let us know where should we send a check. And so that's the process that the agreement sets forth. Now, the agreement does not set forth any penalty for us failing to follow these 30 days. There's nothing in the agreement that says, oh, we're supposed to forego this. And there's nothing under, general contract law that would say, well, if you breach a contract, here's, this is an appropriate penalty. Generally, if there's a breach of contract, the two remedies are, well, what are the actual damages, and therefore the payment of those, or specific performance, which is fulfill the contract. We've fulfilled the contract here. We're going to forward the check to Ms. Irick. Actually, we're going to give it to her tonight. I think that, the sole question is here, it's really not a legal issue, because legally, in my mind, what they're asking for is not supported by the language of the contract. It's more of an issue of whether or not you think it's appropriate for the township to say, look, we're sorry for the inconvenience. We're sorry that this did not work the way it should have. We're going to refund, some portion of the administrative fee to you for that reason. So I don't look at this as really as a legal obligation in any way. I don't see the contract as reading that way.
But they are going to receive the check late.
Today.
Right. Okay. Right, what does the rest of the board think?
I feel as if the township made the mistake, so I feel as if the reimburse her the $500 some. We have to own up to our mistakes here in the township, whether whoever does it. That's what I feel. That's my opinion as a board member.
I agree with what Supervisor Sachs says. However, I would say $300 is a fair amount.
Yeah, I would agree. Since there were no damages, half of it sounds appropriate for this. So 300.
Yeah, and I agree as well, and we want to be sure that this is not precedent setting. Is there any way we can do that?
From a legal standpoint, there is no precedent
There is no
being set.
precedent. Okay.
Yeah, I'll go along with the 300 as for the reasons that were stated by the other two supervisors.
Because this is a disbursement of money in response to a request, we do need an official motion and vote, please.
I need a motion to reimburse an amount of the administrative fee in the amount of $300 to Mr. and Mrs. Irick.
Chuck Geiser will second the motion.
Thank you. Do I have I need someone to make the motion. Oh. Are you making the motion? No.
I'll make that motion as described by our chair.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
All right, so we had Supervisor Yiser made the motion, Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion. Thank you. So we had 4 in favor and 1 opposed, Supervisor Sachs. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Irick, as I stated, the check will be approved tonight, signed tonight, and then a second check will be cut for the $300, and we'll get that off to you once that's been approved at a public meeting.
Okay, well, we're gonna head out of this meeting,
Well,
so.
why don't we do that right now?
Yeah,
Okay,
so we'll, yeah.
get my glasses.
All right, so since I have it, I will make the motion to approve a check to Jeffrey and Donald Irick in the amount of $11,340.39, and this is per the sewer recapture agreement. Do I have a second?
Chuck Geiser will second.
So Supervisor Hexter made the motion, Supervisor Yiser made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? You're opposing issuing them the check?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I agree.
Okay, thank you. All right, motion passes unanimously. Just sign it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience. All right, next item is the 2024 budget discussion and advertisement authorization.
All right, so this is the 2024 fiscal year budget presentation, technically version 3, but draft 2. So starting out with our budget timeline, and the reason that the 29 November and the 19 December is lined out is I sent the ad in today, or attempted to send the ad in today, and they can't get it until the 30th. So we would miss our 20-day window by a day. So what I need the board to consider is moving, either having a special meeting on top of the work session meeting on the 19th, or moving that work session meeting, which to a later date, which I would be proposing. The planning commission meeting is on the 21st, which is the Thursday of that week, and we would be able to hold it prior to that to actually adopt the budget.
Would that date work for the other board members? So you're proposing maybe starting at 6 or 6:30 immediately prior to planning commission?
Correct. Because it wasn't my intention, unless there was something pressing, to have really anything else on that work session agenda other than adoption of the budget.
So is that the 20th or the 21st?
It'd be the 21st.
21st.
I'm fine, yeah.
6:30.
desperately trying to get my family together all in one place this year.
You could
So
come
I'll
in on
have to
Zoom.
come on Zoom.
You could come on Zoom.
Yeah, and
Yep.
sacrifice.
So as of now, you're anticipating the only matter of business would be to approve the budget.
Correct.
So could theoretically be like a 10-minute meeting.
For adoption, I would hope it wouldn't even be 10 minutes,
Okay.
quite frankly.
Does that work for you, Dan and Terry?
6:30?
Say 6:30? Okay.
Okay.
So we have to advertise to change the meeting and put it on our website and Facebook and everything.
Correct.
We don't, Peter, do we need to vote on this or just have consensus? Okay, all right. So that means we will not have our work session on December 19th. We will instead have it on December 21st, so please look in Facebook and the website for that. Maybe should we send out in the newsletter too, maybe? We have to move that meeting because we are not within the 20 days legally required for the public to view the budget. It's 19 days. So if we move the meeting 2 days later, then we can approve the budget. And Jason says there's no other business.
Okay, that part I didn't hear.
So it'll be a short meeting.
I thought, when he said there's no other business, I thought he meant there was no other business that we can conduct on the third.
You could. The only other, I would be looking at something, probably something pressing or something that's a time factor.
Okay.
And just punt, basically take anything else to the new year at that point. Okay? All right.
Just wanted, just to state for the record that, I will try, but I can't guarantee that I will be able to tie in via Zoom, so as long as we have 3, but just letting other people know if they're dicey about it.
All right. So starting with the sewer fund first. This would be the updated forecast and budget revenue line. Oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot. That's on the other computer. All right. So this is the sewer fund operating revenue. The revenue did not change from the last meeting, as we didn't need to, there really wasn't anything to tweak on here. The main tweak was under the sewer fund expenses, and that was primarily, I did not have the updated amortization. I did not account for what our sewer loan would be after the full capital loan was taken out. We did take out the remaining funds out of the capital loan in the middle of November. So the bank and our financial institute was able to provide us with an updated amortization because the December 1st was the no later than time for that loan to draw down. So what's been primarily updated, labor stayed the same, O&M sewer, it's really the debt service that's kind of swung the expense higher than what was previously presented. And in doing so, what I did with the sewer capital improvement plan, instead of a $200 set aside, I bumped that down to $100,000. So that would be the main changes out of the sewer fund. These are the new or capital expenses proposed for 2024. The 6,000 feet per year of sewer line to televise and repair, that is currently under the sewer fund O&M. And this is proposed to be kind of an every year ongoing thing to try to get ahead of any of our, well, basically we're looking for I&I, any type of I&I situations where we're getting water infiltration either through stormwater or some other means. The flood doors for the plant, that's a FEMA mitigation. We have received that revenue this year for that. And that's under the capital improvement plan. The UV service and parts for the plant, that is a request by your sewer plant operator. And then the cameras for the plant and the pump stations is one of the things that we recognize that we have no security on either one of the pump stations or the sewer plant. So So the current proposal is a $1.221 million budget. The project EDUs is up 4.6 by the end of 2024, with mostly Fulmer Road and Riverside connections. We do project 55 new sewer connection tap-in fees between this year and next year. The net income has changed from 3,100 to a negative 100,478. With the proposed sewer net income and the capital reserve, it's only 14,832. And the proposed end of year balance, cash balance, would be $636,775. And this would be if the board chose to do, really, all you can really do with the sewer fund besides pushing out any projects would be some type of rate increase, which I'm not proposing. Any questions?
Yeah, what's the 55 sewer connections,
Yes.
including in that?
That would be the Fulmer Riverside connections, and we've had, I believe, 4 new connections this year through either new construction or our existing houses connecting.
So that's just that project?
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
So the new debt service number you showed us tonight, that's from now on, that's our number until
Yes.
it adjusts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It actually went up from 507 to 518 to 519, and so that was one of the changes. Even from, I realized where you came up with the 507 when I realized my error from the first draft budget with as far as the amortization goes.
Okay.
Any questions? Oh, we're good. Okay. So Liquid Fuels Fund, Open Space Fund, ARPA COVID Relief Fund. Just as a reminder, these are restricted funds that are not required at budget. The board has not budgeted the Open Space Fund and ARPA Fund previously. So to kind of combine the previous slide from our last meeting, this is the Liquid Fuels proposal as far as projects goes. As far as salt purchasing, start of the Zieglerville Road base repair, and then propose the oil and chip of those following roads, and then payment number 3 of the F-550 dump truck. Any questions on the Liquid Fuels Fund?
So payment number 3, which means that dump truck will be paid for in 2026.
2025. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 2026. I apologize. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are we able, so this is actually for the general, question for the general, but the 350 we're talking about this year, are we able to do the same thing with liquid fuels on another vehicle? I forget why we were able to do that with liquid fuels.
So with liquid fuels, you're able to get 25% of the revenue you bring in. It accumulates year over year. This loan, the loan currently that we're paying off would come off that number, and you need to have that balance at the end of the year to be able to, so we would have the ability to do another vehicle purchase of some kind. I don't know what that amount is. That's something I can give you when we get, well, I can get you that as soon as you need it, but we would have the ability. I just don't know what that amount would be.
Don't let it mess up any of the calendar items. I'm just thinking out loud for our next discussion.
So any questions on liquid fuels? So this would be for the open space. Once again, it's remained unchanged. This isn't taking into account for the Highlands grant, which I can say we did get our portion to Heritage, who in turn give it to gave it to the state for submission by the end of this week. We just had to write a narrative, and I had gotten the updated resolution from Peter and got Marla to sign it. So this just, and then taking into account the 30,000 contribution that the board authorized for the agricultural preservation, the county agricultural preservation of 8 Sepp Road. And then I threw in an open space mailer, as that's been something that the open space committee has talked about.
Sorry, I see a hand up.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I guess go ahead, Warren.
Go ahead. Ask your
Okay, sorry, I had on mute. Just curious, why are we oiling and chipping a brand new road?
Sorry, can you please state your name and address?
Warren Jacobs, Fulmer Road. Why are we, why do we need to oil and chip a road that just got paved this year? Is that a question for Carol, maybe?
So this is Carol, this is Township Engineer. We do like to oil and chip newly paved roads to seal them and maximize their lifespan. It's been a policy with the Public Works Department for some time now, particularly with the new paving on Riverside and Fulmer, because there a larger grade aggregate was used in the asphalt. So we're gonna have a little more voids than your wearing coarse asphalt. And the application of a seal coat is going to seal that top and preserve it for years to come. So that has actually been a policy in the township, a standing policy for quite some time with the roadmaster. And I support it. When he gets his new pavement down, he likes to seal it the next year to maximize its lifespan.
So the type of paving that we do is different than what you normally see on other roads and other places like state roads or other municipalities?
Well, particularly with the work that was done on Riverside and Fulmer, yes. But even if you're placing a wearing course pavement down, the lifespan of that pavement is maximized if you seal it early and then put it on a cycle of sealing it every 5 to 7 years. So that's how you're going to maximize the lifespan of that pavement. And that's why that's been the policy in this township for many years.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on the open space? Okay. And then last but not least, and this is where some of the changes to the general fund from what the board would have seen, I moved the female locker room the female locker room / bathroom upgrade and the generator upgrade from the capital improvement plan to the ARPA funds, and then moved the Alexander Drive culvert, the Mill Hill inlet, and the second Avenue Bridge repair into the capital improvement plan, and put that out a few years from now to offset what came out of. So that was done to help take some relief out of the general fund. And these would be authorized expenses for the ARPA funds.
So with the generator, as I talked to you on the phone the other day, that may also involve doing something with the shed that it's in, or storing it differently, or?
Yeah, so we'll either take it out of the shed, or we'll have to do something to the shed, because currently, right, the doors would need to be open. It needs outside air.
Right.
So that is something I've talked to Tommy about. So that would be part of whatever upgrade we would do for the generator. So it'll either be move it outside or get some kind of vent pipe where you get an outside air into the shed and then an exhaust pipe. And you may also notice there's a negative balance of 13,000 that's under ARPA right now. But as you know, we have not gotten quotes for the projects. So my expectation is that when we get those quotes, if we need additional funding from the general fund, then that when the board approves the project, then we'll take care of that at that time. If you were wondering, once again, this is not something we're mandated to budget, so. But the expectation would be by the end of 2024, that money's either spent or allocated for projects. Any questions? Okay, now to the fun one. So these are the updated forecast and budget numbers for the revenue. So as far as the forecast goes, the budget, the draft number 1 budget had actual through September 30th, and then we were forecasting last 3 months. I've added October as actuals and then updated the projections accordingly. Revenue didn't change dramatically. Oh, well, I guess an increase of 39,000 is dramatic because we'll take what we can get. But what you see here would be the breakdown of real estate taxes, which that would include the proposed increase for the fire. That's why that's bumping up the way it is. And then most of the other line items did not change significantly, other than the reserve number, which went from 770,000 to 544,000, or 732, I think. Any questions on the revenue?
I don't have a question, but just to clarify for everybody, that line that says reserves, that's the deficit.
Yes.
So our budget for this year is projected to be in the red by $88,061, which we're basically taking out of our reserves to balance our budget. And the proposed deficit for our next year is $544,732, which again, we would have to take out of reserves. And I'm guessing that'll make a really big dent in our reserves. Big
Yes.
dent.
Yep. And I've talked about that a little bit later in
Okay.
the slideshow.
All right.
As far as expenses goes, here would be the breakdown between the forecast, the updated forecast, and then the proposed budget. Labor and O&M, most of these line items really did not change much over what the board would have seen, other than primarily it would have been we did move, we had an increase in the insurance of 21,000, but we had decreases in tax collection, legal services, our contracted services under the building, legal zoning, advertising, public utilities. Those were based primarily on what I was projecting through the end of the year, adjusting those accordingly. And then we took out 96,000 out of 2 line items under road and bridges. I was not aware that we had those in for this year to accommodate for the Fulmer Road paving. And that's not something we needed, we need to do every year over year as coming out of the general fund. So as far as the budget wise, it's a decrease to 202,000 from 746,773 to 544,000 that you're being presented as far as the net income. And then here would be the overview for the newer capital expenses. So the first 2 is the F-350 truck and the Ford Interceptor, which both of these are on order. They've just been getting they got pushed out to next year. And then the tough books, the AEDs, the computer for the OIC, body cameras, sidewalk, snow blower, equipment trailer, computer for treasurer, camera systems for the township building or township properties, because that would include the Public Works building, a front door for the township actually that needs to come out because we pushed that out to next year, I apologize. The door lock system for the township building, looking at a key fob type of system potentially. And then zoning, permit property management software. I didn't talk about that at the last meeting. We are kind of flying behind because we have no easy way to pull up permits or property data without pulling the property file. So this is something I've got, I did put in under the O&M. Once again, I haven't talked to you guys about it. I haven't presented it. If the board wants to push that out, that would be something. But I can say with the amount of permits that we're getting and that we're continuing, kind of expected to continue to get, not having a permit software to kind of create, make it a little more streamlined for our permit process is we're kind of shortchanging ourselves, if that makes sense. Right now, we have a big spreadsheet.
So would this be a one-time purchase with then yearly maintenance, or is it just
Yes.
a one-time? Okay.
Yeah, so I believe it's
Well, just a bulk.
I budgeted 9,000. Most of that, at least half of that's a setup fee, and then there'd be a year-over-year for they would require us to sign a 3-year agreement. So, but it would be something I'd like the board to consider. And then the last would be that e-ticket software hardware, which I got that information from Sergeant Cass. That's something we're gonna get. It's gonna be a state mandated thing. So that's something else we either get out ahead of a little bit or we're gonna have no choice. I think did you say like by 2025?
They're transitioning starting next year.
So.
On the zoning software.
Yes.
Does that also include some sort of training?
Yes, yeah, so I've worked, so what I've have a quote for is from iWork. I've actually brought iWork into my last 2 municipalities. I did different software, but the nice thing with iWork, it's easy to pick up, and they do really good training. So we're to the point where I had Public Works guys entering stuff and they were able to learn on the fly, so their support is very good.
So then who would start to populate the system? Would that be like Becky or something?
It would be an ongoing, so obviously permits moving forward, and then we would try to enter to go back as far as, that'd be kind of one of those ongoing, that's the challenge with any of the software is getting the historic data in.
I didn't want to belabor it. I know we got a lot to do.
Yes. Summer intern, yeah. Oh, wow, okay. I like alternatives. But I just know that what we have now is kind of archaic. And it makes some of our permit tracking more difficult. And one of the things I didn't realize, because we're almost fully relying on LTL and what they have as far as outstanding permits and stuff. So that's why I'm suggesting it. But so the current proposed budget is $2.858 million for the general fund. Overall tax revenue is projected to rise 1.4%. As I said, that would be the fire tax increase to 0.36 mils is built in there. We would be looking to hire a police officer, potentially Public Works employee. We do have the impact of previous hiring to get the township more appropriately staffed. That's both in the police department, admin, and Public Works. The impact of the capital improvement plan. If the CIP was eliminated, the deficit would still be $395,000, since we already committed to 2 vehicle purchases, as I previously stated. And And then the cash balance as of 12, as of 12/31/24 in the proposed budget would be $1.376 million if nothing has changed. And the current deficit or net income is currently negative $544,732. Any questions? So options for,
Sorry. So if I'm reading this right, if we continue like this in 3 years, we'll be broke.
Yes.
Am I doing the math right? Approximately 3 years? Okay, all right, just checking, those are some
Yes, we
numbers.
will be close to exhausting our reserves.
Okay.
Actually, I have it at the end of 2026 as the budget's currently, with the projections currently in place. And no. And I think as I talked about at the last meeting, that's kind of the pain and suffering of trying to implement a capital improvement plan, because we have some catch up expenses. Besides, also, I think for the last few years, the township has been budgeting for a deficit. I think this year's budget had a $321,000 deficit. So as I'm projecting, we're at negative 88,000. So if things go right, and it has over the last few years, we're hitting into that budgeted net income, because as you guys know, some of this stuff is really a guess. We're always hoping for not a lot of snow and no major weather events and like an axle not falling off a truck that that makes a purchase more immediate. Any questions? So, options for the board, or I should say some options for the board. The board could do nothing and keep the deficit where it is. It could look at instituting a per capita tax, which is a flat rate tax levied upon each adult within the township. The maximum amount that can be charged is $10 per person. This is not a recommendation. It's very difficult to collect, but I'm just throwing it out there. We did previously have an LST, or local service tax, which is levied on individuals who work within the township. The maximum amount is $52 per year. These proceeds can only be used for emergency services, which shall include emergency medical services, police services, and/or fire services, road construction or maintenance, reduction of property taxes, property tax relief through implementation of a homestead or farmstead exclusion. No less than 25% of the funds must be used for emergency services, which I believe when the township stopped it, we were making between $40,000 and $50,000 a year, I believe. And then another option would be taxes on real estate.
Sorry, does anyone know why we eliminated the local services tax? Does anyone remember that far back? I guess that's a no.
Ernie, correct me if I'm wrong, it started when you were supervisor, right? Didn't you start? I don't remember that. I seem to remember it, but I could be wrong. Yeah.
I think
Or
it went
maybe-
up.
Yeah, whatever.
So, but that would be an option, but that's not gonna, it's based on what we were making, I don't know that would make a significant impact on our current budget. So total residential assessed value, this is $270,356,740. This is as of 11/15 of this year. So 1 mil equals $270,378. So what I've done here is from a cash standpoint, if we were to increase by 50,000 to 100,000 to 150,000 to 100,000 to 200,000, you're going up by 0.185 mils to roughly get those 50,000 increments. So that's what you're looking at here. So this is a little different. I believe in the previous presentation, I went up by 0.15 mils. So, but kind of focusing more on the cash side of how that would impact our budget.
How would that equate to an average tax increase?
As far as for on the resident?
Right.
Okay, so I got that in the next slide. Any questions
Okay,
here?
I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, that's fine. I did get the presentation in about 6:08 tonight, so in the Dropbox. So this would be the impact to a residential property. So number of parcels has not changed. The average assessment did go up because our assessment went up. So currently, with the current township millage rate, the fire millage rate, and the ambulance millage, the total local average tax bill for 2.82 mils is $372.82. Basically, for the fire tax increase, you're increasing the cost to the average homeowner of $11.89 per year. For the general tax, going up in those, you're going up, it's $24.46 per 0.185 mil increase. So if you guys went for 200,000, it would go from $372.82 to up to $482.54. So you can see those increments based on the mill increase to match going up by $50,000.
So do those four amounts correspond with the four amounts you had on the previous slide?
As far as the mills, yes.
Okay.
So I took the millage up by point. That's why you get like that's why you're getting like the 3.095, the kind of the wonky millage numbers. So that's the total mills, including our fire and ambulance millage.
So, as Jason said, none of us had seen this before, so bear with me if I ask some silly questions. So that question, the 5th line from the bottom, the 372.82.
Yes.
Is the current tax rate with the fire increase?
No, that's without the fire increase.
Okay, so what is it, just the fire increase?
The fire increase would be $11.89.
Okay, so we can do that math. All right. I just wanted to get my baseline here. All right.
So it'd be what, about 384.50, something like that?
Yeah, that's close. If you just did the fire tax increase, yes. Which I know at the previous meeting, you guys did express moving forward with that based on the fire department's request. And that's another millage. I don't know how. I think it's been 0.27 for several years now.
So
we do have a hand raised then.
Okay, I was just going to ask about the 409.17.
Yes.
That's without the fire tax, but with millage increase to add 50K.
No, so what I did is I included both the fire increase and then the 0.185 general tax increase.
Okay, so that has the fire tax in it. Okay.
Correct.
Oh, it says it right there, sorry.
Yep, that's fine.
Sorry, I'm just going to ask the person with their hand up, could they wait until the board is finished with their discussion, then we'll take questions.
You wanna go back?
Yeah, no problem. Oh, wait, this is not about what's current right now anyway. It was about, I guess you didn't see my hand on the previous discussion. So yeah, I'll wait.
So I guess there's a couple facts that we know. We know that if we do nothing, we're gonna run a consistent, a deficit of something.
Yes.
The other thing we know is we haven't gone through the broader budget along with the potential capital items thoroughly to know to get a real nuts and bolt impact of that, because some of them are true estimates, other ones are more like, you know, the finger in the wind type of thing that you try to.
Correct, Dan. So that would be obviously my hope would be is that when we get true quotes, that I'm trying to be conservative and overestimate to get something on paper. But yes, that would be my expectation. And as I told the board, whatever's approved in next year's budget, all those things still have to come in front of the board for approval. So it doesn't give us kind of carte blanche to go out just buying stuff. And
I'm just trying to think in my own mind the last thing I would like to do is if we do have to approach adding millage, we'd like to only do it. I think residents would like us only to do it once for a while, right? And not come back again. And that's why I'm having a little bit difficulty lining the fact that I don't know all the information in order to get a really good number if we have to raise things. I don't, that's just me thinking about that first time I've seen these things. Okay,
So you gave us a number earlier and you said with everything we're committed to for 2024, the deficit is projected to be $395,061.
if we did no other projects, so that would be the general fund deficit plus those two pieces of equipment that we're
That we've
committed.
already committed to.
Yes.
So that would give us $395,000 deficit for next year. So we know now things could change, but we know that's pretty accurate. It's a big number.
Can you go back one slide again?
Yes. Whatever you need, Chuck. Nope, that's fine.
Take note, it is a little difficult for us, since these numbers are on one slide.
No, I did not. It's in the it's in Dropbox, but I didn't print this out.
Yeah, so just thinking about, this isn't the first year we're going in, looking at a deficit and then promising to budget well or spend responsibly. And I think we did it last year, $300-ish thousand deficit. We'll end up just under 100,000.
Yes.
We did have quite a few expenses that were not expected going into the year. So it looks scary. I don't think it's as scary as it is. So I think if we come up with a number of, whether it's 100,000 or whatever that number we want to be able to get to, and I'm looking at this chart, 0.185 mils to get to 50, and then 0.37 to get to 100. I think it might be time to look into the combination of an increase here, but also an LST. I know the entire time I've lived in Pennsylvania, I've paid $1 a week. I'm paying $1 a week to Conshohocken right now. I don't even go there. So if it's $50,000 a year, And the nice thing that's built into it is we have to use it for road improvement, emergency services, the actual services that people are using
Yes.
as they are visiting our lovely township to work here. I think there's a combination here. If we're going to do one, then to look into the near future, the other as well. And then we don't have to go as deep to our residents. Fortunately, but also unfortunately, a lot of times the people working here are our residents. But again, it's $1 a week and they're using services. So that's a thought. If we have to, if we feel we have to go into a tax discussion, which sounds like we are right now, I think we could probably balance it with a combination of the two.
Yeah, I think the middle one makes sense, because at least it'll give us a little more of a ability to catch up with some of the inflationary expenses we've had, and especially with personnel. I have a question for Peter. How is an LST executed? I'm assuming it can't happen tonight. When you say near future, Terry, what do you mean? How does that work? Oh,
I believe it's an ordinance that would need to be adopted.
does it have to happen at the same time of the year, like tonight, or can it happen in 6 months, or how does it work?
It can happen anytime during the year.
Okay.
What I need to look into is obviously employers need to be made aware of this fact, and there are some timing issues there. I just haven't dealt with them in years, probably a decade, so I don't know it off the top of my head. So it's something I would have to look into.
And I haven't experienced it either. Both locations where I was at had it, so I didn't go through the ordinance process. I know that is the challenge, is getting it to the employers, obviously initially, so.
But what I'm hearing is there's no time sensitivity connected to what we're doing tonight for an LST.
Yeah, there's nothing that could happen tonight. It's not like if we don't do it tonight, we can't do it tonight, let's put it that way, at the very least. And I don't think we can even get it done for next week. There's got to be notification processes. So you're looking at best, the work session in December, or the reorg meeting in January.
The earliest Q2.
Probably, yes. Yeah.
And did you have a guess as to if we were to collect that? Do we know how many workers work in this town?
No, like I said, I believe we were somewhere between 40 and 50,000 when we were still collecting it. And that probably was pre CVS, so you've got Dunkin' Donuts. So there are a couple of businesses. So yeah, until we would enact it, I don't have a way to get a head count.
And is it always $1 a day? I thought
$1 a week.
$1 a week. I thought there was, like, I remember paying 1% to the township I lived in, and then another one to lower.
That's EIT. That's earned income tax. Or SUI.
That's the local.
Yeah, they've had different types of this local services tax over the
Okay.
years. This might be the third rendition I've dealt with.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can charge up to $52. So that's why it's $1 a week. You don't have to, you can do whatever you want, but $52 is the maximum.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you for clearing that up.
So I'm hearing that some board members are amenable to the middle increase, which would bring in another 100,000. Is that accurate?
No, I was actually thinking the 50 if we think we're gonna potentially, if we're on board with an LST to attempt to capture close to that same amount.
Others?
Just a question, how difficult are those, how difficult will it be to administer that program of collecting?
Oh, LST, that would be much like our earned income tax. We'd have a third party do the collection. I know when I was in Bucks County, Berkheimer did the collection.
Yeah.
Berkheimer's our county. The TC, that's who the TCC is selected. So,
Yeah. Finishing that up.
so yeah, it would be a third party doing the collection. LST is not. It's not like the per capita is different. It's a totally different kind
So
of
it's
collection.
pretty straightforward, and you
It's
farm it out to a third party, and then.
From our standpoint, it's really ensuring, because what we do is we get provided a business list, is making sure that the businesses that, as best we can, because sometimes you find out that a lot of out of state or other sometimes the business names don't match, but that's part of in my experience, where as staff you kind of go through and go, oh, so and so business doesn't seem to be on there. So that's usually, once that gets notified, then there's a mechanism to ensure that happens.
And it excludes, I guess, consultant, the people who have consultant or work in their own, like I don't know, dentist, lawyer, whatever. Just trying to think of.
If they're working within the township and they make their, I can't speak for specific businesses.
Yeah.
But if the business is located and they have employees, they should be paying the $1 a week or whatever the board designates.
What happens if they don't have employees? I'm just thinking there's a lot of consultants now in the world who just live at home and then do their bit. And I'm just trying to figure out how you think we capture them.
Well, sometimes we find out indirectly for that at-home business or that, but realistically, and I think that would depend if they're bringing a salary. I mean, I don't know about consulting, so, but that's kind of part of the process.
Okay.
You are initially, people kind of at their honor, business at their honor, but
Well, I'd actually like to propose an intermediate amount, which is 75,000. I'm just concerned at the rate of health insurance is going up and electricity costs are going up and everything else is going up. I don't think 50 is going to make much of a dent, but I think 75 would help a lot more. So I'm proposing a fifth amount.
And that would be 75 with the other tax too, right?
No, just 75 for this. We haven't gotten to that.
Oh, no, I
So
mean,
something in between the 50,000 and the 100,000.
no, with the, plus the LST,
Local, no, just this.
just a pure 75, you're
Yeah.
no LST.
Well, the LST is a completely separate discussion from what we're talking about tonight.
Well,
I'm not sure that's the way.
I don't think
Terry
Harry
was
was
thinking
looking at
about
it.
it
I don't
that way,
think
but-
I agree with that.
It appears you wouldn't be able to institute the LST until January 2025.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that.
At the earliest.
At the earliest. Best case scenario is you can institute it for 2024, but there's no requirement that employers withhold it until you're put on the tax certification list, which is not wouldn't be put out until December 15th, 2024. So I'd have to look into the ordinance specifically whether or not you can actually impose it, but you're not gonna be able to collect really any of it, or whether everything doesn't start until January 1st, 2025.
So if we go with the, I'm going to call it the middle amount suggested by Supervisor Hexter, that's roughly $60 a year for the average parcel or resident, or whatever, based on the numbers I'm looking at here. One of the reasons why we are only $88,000 behind is because certain things that we thought were going to happen this year didn't, right? Like hiring an officer. And we fully intend on pursuing that endeavor next year. So I kind of see that if that's what we need to do to provide the services that our residents seem to want, I mean, I don't know, maybe some of you know that we had a coordinated medical evacuation a week ago with ambulance, police, helicopters, taking somebody who was impaled and getting them to a place where they could receive care. That all happened seamlessly. What, a week or two ago?
Yes.
People put out signs on their lawns saying, we support the police. Well, the police cost money. I support the police, and I'm willing to pay for that. So I pretty much feel that the middle amount, given what I see in the spending and what I hear people telling me they want, is consistent with achieving that goal.
So that's the 75,000 amount, middle amount, or is it the 100,000?
.37.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
So the
Yeah.
the
Yeah, yeah.
100,000.
I mean, I think the 100,000 is the right number. I was just trying to come up with an alternative way. So 0.37, okay.
Yeah, and we do have a new person in the office, and every time we have a new development, we have new roads we have to plow and repair, and new residents who need police services and fire services. And just to echo what Supervisor Yiser said, services aren't cheap, and they're not getting any cheaper. Any of you who've seen your bills lately, our bills are going up too. So no one wants to raise taxes, but we also don't want to be in the red. And we want to continue to provide those high-quality services that people expect and that we would like to provide to everyone.
I mean, it seems like the 100,000 seems like a reasonable with, plus it has a nice even .37 instead of 3 digits. Just a little levity for tonight. But I think if we have an expectation of making sure something's enough for more than just, I hope it's enough for a while, so you don't want to do this again. That's the main concern I had, is we make it too small, we're gonna have to do, something that's got to give at some point. So if the other board members are cool with the 0.37, increasing things by 100K, I think that might be the safest route to go.
No, there's not much you can do.
So just for the board's edification, so I plugged in the 0.37 increase, and that does obviously push our negative cash balance out another year, gets it out of 2026, does push it to 2027. And also, just as you may recall, we did budget it with a 7% inflation. So I think that's where we've been, because it's kind of hit and miss on what seems to cost more and what doesn't. I mean, it really is not, I think it's consistent across the board. So where I can say we don't have a lot of what I call kind of fluff built into the labor and the O&M part, you can see some trends where, some of the line item costs are down. That's why I adjusted them after I did the projection. But once again, we are weather dependent. So like sometimes utilities may go down, but it's hard to say where inflation's hitting, because I don't think it's hitting everything.
Is this the end of the presentation?
Sure is.
Okay. All right, so is that Warren? Go ahead and ask a question.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
All right, two things. The LFT, is that what it's called? The tax on employees?
It's LST.
LST. Okay, a little history on that. When we tried it before, it was a really serious inconvenience on employers. The employers ended up having to pay as much as the employees just for the amount of work of implementing it and the bookkeeping that they had to do, because they have to withhold it. So, and I know this because I had to do it. It cost me more to administer it than the township got out of the tax from the employees. And many people complained about that because it's taxation without representation. The people who are having to pay the tax don't get to vote on the people that institute the tax. So when it was first instituted, I remember Tamara said that what we were going to be bringing in was about $30,000 a year. I don't know what it actually ended up being, and it didn't last long. Everybody agreed that it didn't work out real good, and we got rid of it. $30,000, maybe it's more than that now. Maybe we have more employees to the township, but really, seriously, that's a drop in the budget. We have a bucket. We have, big picture here. We have serious problems with our budgeting over the past, I don't know how long. If we've been running deficits like this in good financial times, what's it going to be like when we get into a little recession again? I mean, the 0.37 mils is a Band-Aid, $100,000. We need to do more than that. We need a balance from both ends. We need a cut and we need a tax increase regardless of how much everybody hates it. The alternative, I guess, is to do what all the other municipalities do that own sewer systems. Just sell them and get a bunch of money and pay it all off. Is that what we're trying to do here? Really, you got to get this together for this year and you're at a deadline. But next year, we really have to think about the big picture and how to get this all under control. That's all.
Thank you, Warren. Does that mean you're going to volunteer to help out with the budget next year?
I am not an accountant, but I think we need somebody that is to do this. I'll certainly put my 2 cents in when you want to know what we need to cut out of the budget.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to put the screen back up? Are there any other questions about our budget discussion?
Yeah, Marla, this is Bob.
Hi, Bob, go ahead.
Bob Burns, 102 Zieglerville Road. Sorry I couldn't be with you guys tonight. Wasn't feeling too well, so trying to follow along with everything that was said. Kind of agree with everything that Warren just stated. I know there were several employers in our area that were upset about it in the past, and I think we looked into it shortly before it ceased, and I don't even think it was bringing in the 30,000. I forget what the number was, but I mean, you'd have to have 1,000 employees to make $52,000. I don't see that we have 1,000 employees, so maybe the local service tax is something to look at. Peter says it can't be instituted for another year. And then, maybe somebody needs to give us a drop dead date as to when that would have to be looked into for next year. But, Marla, you had made a comment at the last meeting where you thought that the fire tax should be the same. And I disagreed then. I didn't bring it up. I just let it roll. I mean, obviously our fire guys do an amazing job out there. They're looking to get another piece of equipment built out in like 5.5, 6 years from now. And, they asked for the increase. Hopefully they gave us some kind of backup as to, based on the mills and the slight increase that they're asking for as to what that would come out to be. However, if you look at the Schwenksville borough, us coming up to meet the Schwenksville borough's tax rate, they only have 1,300 residents or people in their town to begin with. Their taxes are over double what ours are. So, to make that statement that they should be the same. I don't know that that's right. Maybe they're falling behind on the amount of services that they use, and maybe theirs needs to go up to help supply that financing to the fire department. I do understand that a lot of us want police here. I'm all for it. I'm willing to pay for it. I know there's a lot of people out there that, you know, don't want to pay for it, but you know, it's obviously something it's been stated that we're going to be looking at another officer. We're going to be looking at another road crew person, possibly another office staff person. You know, all these things cost money. And, you know, the reserves are if you go back, you know, several years ago when our total budget was like 1.7, we had the reserves there in case there was a problem that we could take care of it if there was, you know, some big catastrophe or something. But now we're looking at, you know, budgets that could be as high as 3 million instead of 1.8. So we also need to make sure that, you know, our reserves are going up a little bit to help cover this. So I understand where you guys came up with your 100,000 and the 0.37 for this evening. But I think Warren was right on top of it. And, you know, we really need to dig deep into this and figure out what's what. Want to get one thing back on the sewer fund, if you don't mind. And since I don't have the updated figures, but I heard Jason said that the revenue is not changing. The sewer connection tap in, if that didn't change, that's still at $288,805. That's 39 EDUs. That's not 55 EDUs that I think he stated would be coming in.
It was 55
So
years, Bob.
in 2 years, okay, thank you. So once again, when we get to these EDU money that's coming in, Supervisor Byrd has brought this up. I brought it up. Where is this EDU money going to? And if you're looking at it this way, if the EDUs are falling into that category, that's going into the total revenue. So if our expenses are lined up with that, then that means we're eating up all this EDU money that's coming in. So that could be a problem. I don't know if you guys saw that or were paying attention to it, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Other screen back up. No, I mean, stop the share. Okay, it looks like there are no other questions. So just to be clear, we need to vote to authorize advertising of the budget. And we need to vote to authorize raising the fire tax to 0.36. Is that correct?
The board would be adopting the tax resolution, so you could,
Do we have that?
usually that's done when you guys adopt the budget.
We
When-
still have to adopt these specific things.
Right now, you'd be giving me the direction. When you adopt the budget, the tax resolution will be part of the
So
budget adoption.
what do we need to do tonight? We need to authorize advertising.
That's really what
and
we
that's-
need.
But we also need to indicate if we're going to do a tax increase on the fire tax and the real estate tax, what that will be.
Yes, because I've
Okay,
got it into my.
That's what I meant,
Yep.
okay. And is it correct that we are looking to raise the fire tax 2.36? Is that the new tax or the old tax?
That would be the new tax.
Okay. So we've heard some discussion, some opinions that the tax increase may be too low. Is the board ready to vote on a tax increase? Are we all okay with 100,000 going up, adding another 0.37?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So are we ready to vote on advertising the budget with those two increases? Someone like to make that motion?
Before we do, so part of that is all this information in front of us is available then after we advertise.
Correct.
Okay, I
Yep,
just want to make sure.
that's the whole point. The 20 days, everything's out there for the public. The
So
board,
starting
obviously, you guys will
tomorrow.
get the updated.
So it'll be available tomorrow, but you guys don't rush in at 8:30 on the dot because it'll take a
Correct.
few minutes for this to be available. So give our office staff a little while.
So with those proposed increases, that would take the deficit for next year's budget, general fund budget to 393,693.
That includes that capital improvement.
That includes actually, strike that.
It's not like we're spending that
Yeah,
capital
so
improvement constantly.
so with the capital improvement, the net incomes, it's actually 324,418. Because part of that, there's a portion of that capital, I call it set aside. So there's a small portion that would be going for future purchasing.
Right.
So yes,
It's not spent, it's just moving it to a pile where we're saying we're saving this for this activity later on.
So it's kind of like another reserve,
the goal,
a different kind of.
way out in the future would be that it'd be more self-sustaining, and that way you're not, the general fund isn't taking that big hit every year, so to speak. So that at some point you get to the point where you're just putting the set aside money because the fund itself is covering whatever it is you're trying to purchase. So it's just and we can, and I think as we discussed at the last meeting, it's a living, breathing document. So that's one of the things I think the plan would be, summertime, that we take one of the work sessions and we kind of talk more about this and kind of help educate and kind of get more, along with the fact that at that point we can get quotes for stuff. But yeah, that's an every year thing that you're tweaking and moving stuff around.
Okay, so would someone then like to make a motion to authorize advertising of the budget and the two tax increases we discussed?
So I still have one item I wanted to bring up. So in both ARPA and the capital improvement, we still have the generator upgrade.
Yes.
It's in both of them.
Oh, no.
I'm telling you it is. So let's remove it from the general, from the capital. And then that's what we advertise. So it's at $16,000. It's not changing. Yeah, it's money.
So then we need a motion to authorize advertising the two tax increases and the change indicated by Supervisor
So
Byrd.
that moves the combined net income for the capital and the general fund to negative 308,350. I was just checking if you were paying attention, Terry.
How many people does it take to get the budget right? Okay, so I still need a motion. Okay, so we need a motion to authorize advertising of the budget, the two tax increases, the fire tax and the EIT. And
Real estate, not EIT.
No, sorry, I'm sorry, the real estate tax of 0.37, increasing the fire tax to 0.36, and making that minor change indicated by Supervisor Byrd.
Is that good enough, Peter?
Yes.
Okay, I will make the motion for advertisement as described by our chair.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Dan Orff will second.
All right, so Supervisor Yiser made the motion, Supervisor Orff made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Was that 0.37 to 100,000? I thought the fire and everything was in there.
No, the 0.37 was for the general real estate tax, Terry. Yep.
So the proposal is to raise the fire tax by a small amount,
Yeah,
so it is equal to.
It's like a left. Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. All right.
Before we move on, can I just throw something out there? I think you mentioned revisiting this capital improvement plan like during the summer.
Yes, sir.
I think it should be more frequent than that, maybe twice a year, because we may have questions that we want you to, there may be follow-up based on our questions.
Mhm.
So, does it make sense maybe once in the spring and then once in the summer, or?
Yeah, maybe before budget season.
So I mean, maybe, March, April.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yep, that's easy.
Okay, the next item is the reserved unused EDU policy draft discussion. I saw something from you, Carol, in the Dropbox, I think. You're next.
Okay, so this is the proposed dormant EDU policy. So I asked Carol to put together some of the scenarios, and actually she gave me more, which I think will help get this policy, bring some clarity to the policy. But we should be able to go through this relatively quickly. So this is the proposed dormant EDU policy. So we'll start it simple. What is an EDU? EDU is an acronym for equivalent dwelling unit. This is the amount of sewage flow anticipated to be generated by a single family home. The EDU was calculated by formulating the tapping fee report based upon census data for average home occupancy in the township and a per person flow rate defined by DEP. And for Lower Frederick, EDU is the rate of sewage flow in multiples of 249 gallons per day. What is a tapping fee? The tapping fee is paid by anyone proposing a new connection to the sanitary sewer system. The current tapping fee was established by ordinance and based on a study prepared by Gannett Fleming dated March 2017. And for Lower Frederick Township, the current tapping fee is $29.74 per gallon per day, or $7,405.26 per EDU. Some history and background. Some connected homes and properties are no longer occupied or have been demolished. Before 2017, the tapping fee cost was lower. Some property owners bought EDUs in anticipation of future development. And the township has occasionally offered EDUs to individual property owners as compensation for an easement through their lands. Addressed by the proposed policy today, dormant EDU would be paid tapping fee but did not yet build. Home or business had been connected but was since demolished. Home or business connected but vacant. A donated dormant EDUs granted in exchange for an easement. Tomorrow, an EDU reservation, which would be a capacity reservation for future development, not likely to be utilized today, but in place for the future.
Hold on.
The dormant EDU charges. Township shall maintain a list of all properties with a dormant EDU. The dormant EDU charge is set by the supervisors. The dormant EDU charge is invoiced quarterly, just as our regular sewer charge fee is. Failure to pay 3 invoices in a year, the EDU is terminated. No reimbursements or fees or charges paid. Unpaid fees still owed. Dormant EDUs specified to lot or parcel. Transferred with the sale of parcel, cannot be transferred or sold to another parcel. Dormant EDU exists as long as the landowner pays the dormant EDU charge. Converted to connected EDU when lot is improved. Property owner may return the dormant EDU for a refund of the tapping fee paid minus 10%. And keep in mind, this is what is proposed in this policy. As far as the donated EDUs, the dormant EDU policies do not apply. Ownership is controlled by agreement which established the EDUs. If written agreement is not otherwise specific, the donated EDU runs with the land and is transferred with sale of parcel, cannot be returned to the township or extinguished by the township. The owner is not required to pay fees or charges for donated EDUs not connected. When the donated EDU becomes an operational EDU, the landowner will pay the same quarterly charges as any other sewer customer. The EDU reservation fee, Looking to the future, as years go by and sewer connections are made, this chips away at available capacity in the sewage treatment plant. A developer may want to reserve capacity for future development. This is the purpose of the EDU reservation fee. EDU reservation fee would be 25% of tapping fee or up to. Specific to a parcel of land, can be transferred with property, not to a different parcel. Expires after 3 years. No refund of fee at expiration. Cannot apply for another EDU reservation fee for this parcel for 2 years. Convert to connection. The reservation fee is applied to the tapping fee. Return of EDU reservation. Township returns reservation fee minus 20%. Cannot apply for another EDU reservation fee for this parcel for 2 years. So here we go to the examples. So this would be new information that's not been in the policy, but we talked about with the chart that was presented at the last meeting. Joe bought an EDU in 1999 when the Zieglerville sewer system was installed, intending to develop a lot. 24 years later, development never occurred. Joe's options. Confirm the township is aware of the EDU and it is on the dormant EDU list. Pay a quarterly dormant EDU fee to hold on to the EDU for future connection. Or provide record of tapping fee payment to the township and request a refund minus 10%. Or do nothing and the EDU expires after non-payment of the first 3 invoices. Example number 2. The home on Jane's lot was torn down. The sewer connection was capped. The lot is no longer contributing wastewater to the township sewer system. Jane's options. Confirm the lot is on the township dormant EDU list. Pay a quarterly dormant EDU fee to hold on to the EDU for new connection if a new home is built. Or provide record of tapping fee payment to the township and request a refund minus 10%. A new tapping fee due when the property is developed. Do nothing and the EDU expires after non-payment of the first 3 invoices. A new tapping fee will be due when the property is developed. Example number 3. Tom was granted an EDU in exchange for a sewer easement through his property. Tom's options, no action is required of Tom. He keeps his right to the EDUs. No quarterly fee is required. Tom's options confirms the terms of the agreement. Make connection when ready. No tapping fee required. How will Joe, Jane, and Tom know what to do? When the dormant EDU or donated EDU is known to the township staff, a letter will be sent. Notices will be placed on the website and on social media. Information on the policy will be included with upcoming sewer bills. So that is a quick version of what you're currently looking for as far as the draft policy. I can say, and I did note this in your packets, there are there's some things we need to amend that either makes things confusing, or we had some old language with the original policy that I drafted and when it was done by Pete. So I've noted those changes that popped out to me in the summary sheet that you guys have, that the board has. So once again, I wouldn't be looking for the policy to be adopted tonight because I would want to present you with an updated draft. I think, as you guys previously discussed, I think some of the things that might help us get a more complete draft that for the board to consider adopting would be, whether or not you want to put a time frame, what kind of quarterly, those things that we've proposed.
So you mean different timeframes than have been provided in this overview?
Yes, either have timeframes, don't have timeframes. It was kind of an either or. I felt like the board was kind of leading, maybe not having timeframes. I believe I had previously expressed that was something I was seeing in some other policies, but once again, if that's some, that would be some of the decisions the board would want to make, because you're certainly impacting, a handful of those current situations that we're aware of. I can't say I've not gotten back to looking for any other situations. I've not had any other brought to my attention. So, kind of what my list right now is, I think is as complete as, but I think that would be also part of, if the board's able to adopt this policy sooner, if we get it out, there may be people out there that, like I said, I haven't crossed, and looking in the old journal entries.
I thought I saw in the presentation that you could hold on to a dormant EDU and pay the dormant EDU fee for, was it 2 years or 3 years, or am I mistaken? 2 years, no. You can't reapply, 3 years, it expires after 3 years. So presumably that means someone has 3 years to decide whether or not they want to connect, and after that, they have to wait 2 years to reapply. That seems like would there be a reason they would need more time than that?
Yeah, that's the reservation, not the dormant EDU.
Right, the reservation, okay. Where's the dormant?
Yeah, the dormant EDU lasts as long as they keep paying the charges.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So I think I maybe asked this question at a previous meeting, but in the case of the dormant ED, flavors of it, as I see it, somebody who bought an EDU in anticipation of the township doing something which would allow them to connect, and somebody who just has an EDU who could connect at any time. So, there may be, and I don't remember the numbers or how we handled this question before, but somebody who bought an EDU in anticipation of being able to make a connection, that township never did the infrastructure improvements, so they have an EDU, there's no way for them to connect. And I don't think it's fair to make that person hold on, pay money, pay this quarterly EDU fee, because
They can return the dormant EDU to the township for a refund minus a 10% administrative charge.
Yeah.
And as of now, we've got 2 of those situations. The 2 properties.
I guess I kind of feel at the time there was sort of a promise made to those homeowners, just like we talked about tonight, the earlier people here. We may have differed on the amount to give to the IRIC, but I think the general premise was we made an agreement with that homeowner way back when. And I think in those special cases, and there's not many of them, that we should, preserve that agreement.
Can I ask, what agreement is that? Is that the agreement to extend the line, or?
Agreement only in the sense that they could purchase the EDU and hold on to it until such time they could connect. So that we weren't requiring them to pay any kind of quarterly fee or anything like that.
Okay.
Because they bought it because, our system was severely limited. I know you weren't here for that, but it was very limited, and they wanted to make sure that they could get in when they anticipated the infrastructure improvement to occur. So it's not many of those, but I kind of think there should be an exception to that.
So I think the reason we want to charge them a small fee is that they're hopefully going to eventually be going into a sewer plant, which we want to be up and running, and that sewer plant takes money to maintain. And the idea would be that they'll be benefiting from that if and when they hook in. But how many people do we have in that category? I mean, I know, like, if there's anyone on Cemetery Road, we're not going to run the sewer.
Right
on
now,
Cemetery
I'm
Road.
aware of two that
Okay.
are not, that physically don't have a main running in front of their properties. It would take, you
And
know,
the expectation would be one will be at some point?
I don't, I have not, I'm not familiar enough with our Act 537 plan. I know in discussions, as far as cemetery, that I believe it's in the 537 plan. So, you know, it's, and, you know, if it's in there as a proposed line, then yes, it can happen at some point. I don't
In
think we're
theory,
close to
but,
that,
yeah.
but. And I will say, from what I've discovered, the EDUs that were purchased that was when, you know, that was with the old sewer plant. And yes, we did appear we were getting close to capacity. So like you know, I haven't seen any, you know, where somebody's bought an EDU like 2 years ago and have just been kind of holding on to it. So it does fit in that kind of little different criteria when the sewer plant was, well, it was the old sewer plant.
Just a quick question. So what kind of proof, like somebody, I guess we'll have to get documentation if somebody comes forward and says they were, an EDU was donated to them because we ran an easement across their property, or if somebody thinks they have documentation that proves that they have a dormant EDU. Because when you advertise this, I guess, well, there's a possibility that people will come forward saying that they have these things, right?
Yes, potentially.
Yeah.
I have been able, you know, what I've been able to confirm has either been what's in the accounting software or through the old journal entries, which I think, as I've expressed, that's been a fun track.
All right. No, I guess whatever they provide would have to be adequate in somebody's eyes to be deemed.
And as far as the donated EUs, there's two situations and we do have agreements for those.
Okay. All right.
So just to clarify, the expectation is we're continuing the discussion on this evening, but that we're not ready to finalize it.
I didn't want to make the changes kind of a day or two prior without the board having time to, and I think the hope was the presentation kind of helped clarify. I know the policy, you know, it doesn't, it may not read clear or be easy to understand in some ways. So I didn't want to do that last minute and expect you guys to adopt something. Like I said,
Okay,
I was
so the
also.
answer is there's no expectation for us to approve it today.
No.
Okay. And just also to clarify, the 25% dormant EDU fee, that would be $50 a quarter. 25% of 200.
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone else on the board have any other questions or comments about this? So you'll make some changes and we'll see this again next week? Is that what everyone would like? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, we can. I mean, that's what, you know.
Okay, great, getting close.
I do, but the changes that I listed on the summary sheet for the board, those would be the immediate, I guess, and a lot of that was, Carol kind of discovered that putting some things together. So, but yeah, I think I can swing it for next Tuesday.
And if not, you'll just let us know.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay, great.
Hold on, girl, hold on.
Any questions on the reserved EDU policy? Not, we'll move on to the JEP Chandera subdivision settlement. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being so patient. You probably know more about our budget than we do now.
Sat through many, many, many budget discussions. I'm Dave Honorado, represent the applicant, and Mr. Paniza is on.
Just please
Which one? One of
speak
these?
into the microphone.
Sure.
Yeah, if you want to, honestly, Dave, if you want to sit down.
Sit down, okay.
Yeah, there you go. We have a bunch of people on Zoom and we're recording this, so we just want to be able to hear.
That's fine. I'm Dave Honorado, representing the applicant, and Mr. Paniza, the applicant, is on Zoom. He's out of town tonight. So he's here.
You wanna- I go?
Yeah.
So just a quick little history. Mr. Paniza filed for a conditional use approval for neighborhood lotting of a development along Big Road across from the middle school generally. That hearing was held 2 years ago. An adjudication was issued granting the requested conditional use with numerous conditions and some of them quite substantial. Mr. Paniza then appealed many of those conditions. The parties then entered into negotiations on trying to settle the appeal. We reached a tentative settlement, I want to say about 6 months ago, maybe?
That's about right.
Okay, that was then put into writing, and Mr. Honorado and I have been going back and forth on the writing, the actual written settlement agreement. We have finally reached an agreement that it's good for Mr. Honorado's client, and I believe meets all of the requirements and everything that the township wants. So what we have before you tonight is this written settlement agreement. I'm looking for a motion to approve that. This discussion was advertised in the Mercury for tonight. So we did advertise it as we have advertised other settlement agreement discussions. Generally speaking, the settlement agreement is for a development with the same number of homes as originally proposed. The major change is that instead of doing a loop road that connects to Big Road in 2 locations, the development is going to be built along a road that basically extends Simmons Road to an intersection to be built across from the entrance to the middle school. And then there is a cul-de-sac off of that Simmons Road extension. They're still proposing all the open space as originally shown. They're still proposing all the trails as originally shown. They're still proposing the tot lot as originally shown. So the major change here is the road realignment. Many of our discussions in the negotiations were, how to make that happen. And like I said, I believe the settlement is a good result for the township, and I would recommend that it be adopted.
Thank you. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
The only thing I want to add is that this is simply conditional use approval. Still, we're going to go through land development, and there's some issues that will need to be resolved in land development that are raised as part of the conditions here, such as the width of the roads, the access to the village green, and some other issues that we will need to resolve.
Additional off-street parking.
Off-street parking that we will need to resolve through land development.
And it's also my understanding that if there are any existing steep slope conditions, that will also have to be resolved potentially in another conditional use hearing.
Absolutely, under your ordinance, steep slope ordinance, if we determine that there are steep slopes that require us to come before the board, we make a separate application with regard to that.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions regarding the settlement? Okay. So what does the resolution need to be? Just to approve the settlement agreement?
Yeah, I do believe, Madam Chair, hold on one second. Yeah. Just to authorize you to sign it, to approve it and authorize your signature.
So we need a motion to authorize approval of the settlement agreement with JEP Gentera and to further authorize the chair to sign the agreement. Someone like to make that motion?
Dan Orff will make the motion as stated by the chair.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Chuck Yiza will second.
So Supervisor Orff made the motion, Supervisor Yizer made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll get a signed copy, send it off to you. Or do you want to just sign a separate one and we'll merge them?
I have one already signed by John. So I'll
Okay.
get it to you.
As soon as I get one, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
you're taking care of the motion to the court, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. We are good to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, and the last item is the Sandbrick subdivision discussion. I think that's you, Peter.
Well, Carol's been really quiet. I thought yeah, I can take it.
Didn't you barely notice you were here, Carol?
So just as a little bit of history, Mr. Sandbrick received approval for a 3-lot subdivision with 2 new homes. This was several years ago. Entered into a development agreement with the township to undertake certain public improvements with the construction of the 2 new homes. The 2 new homes have been constructed, have been occupied. In wrapping up this project, it became apparent that there was a swale, existing swale on the property that runs into the driveways of one of these 2 new homes. The driveway has no driveway pipe, so the water would flow from this swale, would flow over this pipe, or sorry, over this driveway. Last winter, this led to some pretty severe icing problems at the base of this driveway. The township engineer went out to look at this, determined that a driveway pipe was necessary in order to correct this problem. The reason why a driveway pipe was not originally proposed or approved was because no one showed, the plans didn't show this swale. Under the development agreement Mr. Sandbrick signed, the township has the power, the ability to impose additional stormwater improvements upon the developer when it's clear that the current plan, the approved plan, does not work. That is the situation here. This past March, we told Mr. Sandbrick that he needed to do this. This past March, he came in front of the Board of Supervisors asking for a waiver of this requirement. The Board of Supervisors did not grant him that request, so he was still obligated to put in this driveway pipe. He has not done it to this point in time. Under this development agreement, he had 24 months to complete this development and all the public improvements. He is well past that deadline. As such, the township has the ability to declare him in default, take the remaining escrow monies and use that money to complete this work. And that's what I'm asking you to do tonight. I'm looking for a motion to declare Mr. Sandbrick in default of the development agreement. Dated, I think we have it here, dated November 13th, 2020, and authorize the township to use the escrow funds to complete this project, which I believe is the installation of this driveway pipe. And that's the only remaining item.
So as I understand it, then the township would become responsible for installing that, using that escrow money. And if it
Yes,
is not
it-
enough, then he would have to pay the difference.
Yes, yes. If the escrow money does not cover all the costs, he would still be on the hook for any overages. I think the township's plan is to use the equipment bid in order to undertake this work. And we believe, as long as we get a couple of good days, that this will be able to get done this now instead of in the spring.
Okay, any discussion from the board? Right, would someone like to make that motion? I'm not going to repeat it again, but the motion that Peter made.
Do you wish me to repeat it?
Oh, go ahead.
No, there you go.
Chuck Geiser will make the motion. I move to declare Bruce Sambrick subdivision in default and authorize the use of the financial security escrow to complete this work, and further authorize the work to be completed under the equipment bid.
I will second that. So Supervisor Geiser made the motion, Supervisor Hexter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Is there anything else? Okay, that brings us to public comment. Go ahead, Warren.
I'm sorry. I guess I was muted. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
So the settlement that you guys just agreed to with John Panizza, was that a result of them having sued us?
Do you mean the Gentera settlement agreement?
Right.
Yeah, they appealed the some of the conditions that were attached to the conditional use approval of their neighborhood lighting development.
Now, did that go to court?
It was filed with court, but we never appeared in court, and we never had to file anything. The township never had to file anything in response. Prestige did the same thing.
So we just decided to resolve it by agreement anyway, even though that we weren't required to by the courts?
Well, we decided to resolve it by agreement so that to ensure that the conditions weren't overturned by the court, and he had free reign to build a development that he wanted without those conditions.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions from the public? If not, I'm going to move on to supervisor comment. Okay. I just wanted to let the public know that one of our residents, Mr. Phil Smith, received an award a couple weeks ago. Actually it was a little on November 15th. He received the Montgomery County Planning Commission Planning Advocate Award. It was an award ceremony that had only 6 awardees. Phil was one of them. So his work advocating for open space was recognized, in particular his work at the Meng Preserve. So it's really great when the county recognizes one of our own for their work, and I think this township has benefited a lot. So thank you, Phil.
Yeah. Marla, I'd like to make since I won't have a chance to talk to you folks from up here too much longer, I wanted to make a brief statement. I just wanted to say, since last Thursday was Thanksgiving, I'd like to take a few minutes just to express my thanks to the residents of Lower Frederick, who 4 years ago provided me the privilege to serve as township supervisor. While meeting with the members of the community, they had several consistent request of their township government, allow the township residents to decide on open space funding via ballot initiative, adjust township ordinances to restrict developers from clear-cutting woodlands, changing in development site topography, and engaging in destruction of century-old trees. They also wanted to require developers to comply with the township ordinances and no special treatment for any particular person or persons. Lastly, they wanted to see the sewer expansion project in the greater Springmount area completed. These were the principal wishes that a good number of the residents came forward to 4 years ago. As we sit here today, those requests have all been accomplished. Lower Frederick has an open space fund and an active open space committee, which is actively working towards preservation of open space for a number of properties. Lower Frederick has established ordinances, which is developer focused to prohibit overly destructive land development practices in Lower Frederick. These provide for development while minimizing the loss to our township's unique rural character. Lower Frederick has expanded the sewer system to include a greater Springmount area. Difficult votes were required to bring those items into existence. Like all the supervisors here, I was elected to represent all of Lower Frederick residents without regard to political party. My votes were critical in moving several of these goals forward. It is reassuring that the 2 individuals just elected as supervisors for Lower Frederick also voted to bring these goals to fruition. I am very pleased that residents backed their wishes with their votes. Congratulations to Marla Hexter and Noel Halter on election, and thank you for holding true to your commitments. My thanks to the residents of Lower Frederick. Best wishes to all of you, and for a joyful holiday season and a happy new year. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll still be at the next 2 meetings, but.
So I'd just like to thank our staff, Carol, Peter, for guiding us through this settlement plan and the conditional use. I think we ended up with a much better plan. And for Carol or Peter, who had the foresight to bring in a traffic engineer to also give us some very good suggestions. And just to highlight a couple of things, because it didn't really come out and people may lose track of it. They have agreed to give us $1,473 per new dwelling unit for helping improve the signalization, future signalization of the intersection across the middle school. They will be responsible for if they do anything out there on Big Road, replacing existing flashing school lights and zones and markings. They're responsible for taking care of that. Active recreation, as you know, they're not providing it. There will be a fee in lieu of, which will be established during the land development process. They're giving us $1,000 per dwelling unit for the Delphi pump station. And they are also giving us $27,000 toward the township's efforts in having to do a special study for the Scioto Creek watershed. That's an Act 537 thing. So those are all significant things that also are part of this agreement. Thank you again.
Anyone else?
Just to tack on to what Chuck just said, 2 of the other things is there's a significant portion of land that would be left as passive recreation that'll actually connect to the stepping stones that the Prestige Development agreed to provide to go across the Scioto Creek. So those 2 passive recreation areas will connect at some point, which will be a real, which make their way all the way to Coble Park. So that's a real positive thing for the township, and it continues us on our path related to connecting trails throughout the township.
All right, on that happy note, thank you, everyone. Meeting's adjourned.